Hello, and welcome back to Conquest of Elysium 5. Again, I was not expecting to be making this video when I recorded earlier today, actually, recorded the initial, or part 1 of this, but I wanted to make an addendum. So after I recorded the first part, I uploaded it to YouTube and shared it with Pascal, the creator of the mod, to let him know, and also just to get any feedback he had on it, if there was anything I overlooked. And it turned out there was something very significant I overlooked. And I'm going to preface this by saying, if you don't want to spoil what the end game of this mod looks like, don't watch this video. There's some really interesting stuff that happens at the end. Specifically, when you unlock, well, you can see the sprite there. When you unlock the last level of Cult in one of these cities. So, without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to the Demonologist's late game in Pascal's mod. So let's take a look at Pullman here. I've spent all this time talking it up. Let's see what we actually have. So you'll notice, if you think back to before, I was talking about the special powers and stuff like that, and the sacrificial altars and the greater sacrificial altars. One thing I never built was the blood idol. And mostly this was because I was busy fighting the druid. I was turning all of my gold and sacrifices and everything into things that would directly help me fight the druid. Because that's basically where when I did my last recording, where the game was at. I just defeated him. So I'd never built a blood idol. And Pascal asked, well, why not? Because you played the game very differently than I do. And I'm like, said the same thing I just explained. And he's like, okay, interesting. I think I need to document that better, because the blood idol is a very important goal. Picking one of these guys up and really changes things, because what it does is, in and of itself, it doesn't do much, but it does it is a commander, which is kind of cool, and it's also a spellcaster. Blood magic level 2, infernal magic level 1, immobile defender, all that sort of stuff. Pretty powerful defensive unit. At this point, the cult is in the open, so I'll let you read that if you want. So this is officially a demon city now. The cult runs the show, and he only has one special power, and that special power is to appoint a cult patriarch, which I did. And this is my cult patriarch, and his special powers are kind of cool. And I'm just going to run the turn here so I can show you. You just didn't have any action points, and now you get to watch wildlife move around. Oh, okay, nice, good timing, because that came up really quickly. So, the Cult Patriarch, with his special powers, he can do the mass sacrifice, trade a blood sacrifice for a sacrifice the resource, only at a cost of 1 action point, and he can do it as often as he wants. It's a mechanic I didn't really use all that much, but I could definitely see it starting to be useful at this point. Miracle Profilization is like the others, 9 action points, so it still takes 3 months to do, but you get a bunch more of your blood sacrifices. Promise of Sainthood is interesting, not so much because of what it does, but because of what it has the potential to do. So we're going to Promise Sainthood here. And you'll notice I got a bunch of new units. Specifically, I got these Blood Anointed. Now, they're basically just slightly beefier versions of the Blood Sacrifice. You can level up your Blood Sacrifices into something that does 1 to 3 damage and has 5 hit points, instead of 1 to 1 damage and has 3 hit points. And that's all they do right now. But I just in conversations, a little bit of a conversation with Pascal, and kind of my own vision these things have a lot of potential. And I'd be really, really interested in seeing if Pascal did something else with them. In terms of being able to unlock new units or something like that, like give them a different upgrade path than the regular blood slaves. So instead of promoting to the scarecrows and stuff like that, give them a different upgrade path. I don't know, maybe be able to get demon knights or bloodbound or something like that out of the deal. That'd be really neat. So these guys aren't interesting except for the potential that they have. The other thing that this unlocks, and you sort of saw a hint there in the mercenary announcement, but you can now upgrade your castigators and mockingbirds to these Hellgate Guardians, and they're very powerful units. These are on par with some of the solid, like, Summon Infernal Army units that you get. 18 hit points, a bunch of resistances, fast healing, 3 armor, the ability to basically get a second attack that stuns things, and a nasty magical spear that does double damage versus undead and sets things on fire. So these guys are solid units. This is the other thing that you can get. It only shows up as mercenaries, but it only shows up if you have one of those cult patriarchs. And it is another, again, very, very powerful unit. Has the bite, has this hellbound ride that hits 3 things, that just, I think, swallows them. I don't know, destroys them somehow. It's whatever. I don't know. It seems awesome. I haven't used one yet. Just RNGesus has not blessed me with having one pop up when I could afford it. In my actual playthrough, I could afford it right now. But yeah, so they're cool too. Oh, and you see them here. These guys will show up kind of throughout the game, but this is another unique mercenary unit that you can attract, who are, again, pretty cool. They're pretty potent archers. I used some of them in eliminating the enchanter earlier. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, though, is put a quick cut in and jump ahead to when I do the last upgrade, which I haven't talked about yet, and it's this Consecrate Bloodwell. So the Blood Idol has another level to it, and I'm going to just put a quick cut here and jump to when I am in a spot to do that, because you can see it is very expensive. 500 gold, 100 blood slaves. It takes me a little while. So I will see you after the jump. Okay, so we're back. And we are at a spot where I am able to, wrong guy, able to consecrate the blood well. And so let's do it. Now's when things really start getting insane. Because the blood well, in addition to being a very powerful caster and defensive unit, like, nothing's taking the city at some point, and absolutely, like, it gives more free spawn. It's an awesome altar unit. It also really ups the factor. At the ultimate high of a cult's influence, a fallen angel will be summoned and chained to a bottomless pit, a blood well. Day and night the angel performs sacrifices, gutting the willing and unwilling alike, filling the well with their lives. Yet it can never be full, for down below there is something that drinks and drinks and drinks. I mean, that's awesome. So, he has a couple really cool abilities. He could also appoint a cult patriarch if for some reason you didn't already have one. Fill the well is just a sacrifice. Trade your your dudes for sacrifices, your blood sacrifices for those sacrifices. Blood Revelry is really interesting. And this sort of cuts to the problem that I had at first. And this is how that problem is solved, where I was struggling to really justify the cost of trying to run basically a Dominion-style blood economy, where I had all these cultists out here gathering up sacrifices and that sort of stuff. This solves that problem, and it does it with that ability. Blood Revelry does cost 40 sacrifices, so you do have to spend money on it. Only costs 2 action points, though. And if you click it, not only do you get a bunch of your blood sacrifices, you also get a bunch of these dudes, the Blood Revelers, who are total chaff. They go berserk, they have a flail, they're stupid, but they don't move independently. Like they're not going to start wandering around on you. You assign them to a commander, and they basically just go in the front and try to kill something before they die. So awesome chaff. And you can keep doing that. It's 40 sacrifices per cast, but it gets you really, really reliable chaff for when you need it. And there's times that's a real problem for the Demonologist, having enough chaff in the late game to absorb losses. So it really solves that problem for them in the late game. And if you've got both of these guys using their abilities regularly, you're going to be churning out a lot of blood sacrifices. Like, that ceases to become a problem in this town. If anything, you start running out of iron and things like that to upgrade them. So, in conclusion, my big initial complaint is definitely solved once you move into the late game. I think it could probably use a little bit of balance tweaking, maybe tone some of this down a little bit or starkly limit. I'm not sure if I can make these blood wells in like every city or not. If I could, then yeah, that would be insane. But I think if you were to limit yourself to having, or if there were a limit of having one Patriarch, like how there can only be one Baron, a sort of almost like Demon Pope or something like that, I think that would work very well. And then what you could do is you could up the power a little bit, or up the reliability of some of the lower level summons, and sort of encourage the player to kind of play wide a little bit. So yeah, anyhow, I think this balance works okay. It's probably not what I would have chosen or how I would have chosen to balance it. I prefer a more gradual curve. But it does definitely redeem a lot of the big shortcoming that I saw in the mod. So it just sort of more generally, and I'm gonna try to keep this short. I think one of the interesting things that it does is it really forces you to look for these cities. I think it would be interesting to try playing with this mod on a map that didn't have cities, like the Empire, which, by the way, I still have not found the Imperial capital. It's here somewhere, but who knows? So there or there, I guess, are really my only two options. But there's a lot of cities because it's the Empire society. I wonder how it would work, or how well it would work on a agricultural or dark age or something like that, where you don't have these combination big human settlement and recruiting areas. I think that might limit like where you're going to want to put your main cult leader, because let's face it, having walls is good. So yeah, I think it'd be interesting to try on a couple of other society levels, and see how that balances. But on the Empire, at least, I can say it made for a heck of a fun run. This is definitely approaching the end game now. I'm sort of chasing around the last remaining troll armies up in here, just beating them out of the woods, basically. And I do want to find the Empire at some point, or the Imperial capital at some point, but I don't know if we'll even get to that. So yeah, there's the high level or late game Demonologist with Pascal's mod. Hope you enjoyed. Hope this was useful, and otherwise, I will see you next time. Cheers.